Mark apologizes and just wants to know if Jack will help him. He needs help. And they did a really good job. He looks like the same poor, scared kid at the beginning of the movie when he ran away from home.
Mm-hmm. I think they film him the same as well. They give him like the same frame.
Oh, it's possible that they gave him the same frame.
Yeah.
I know the costume looks very
Yeah.
similar. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I'm your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a musician who has not seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I am on a quest to change that. Never on this quest alone, however. This week I am once again joined by actor and writer and producer and my friend who was one of the ones who would get mad that I haven't seen anything, Daniel Chaves. Daniel, hello, how are you?
Buongiorno.
Apparently we're Italian.
Hello, hello. Cool. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. It's gearing up towards the end of the summer I guess in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, so we're doing
Yeah.
good. London has been, the past few weeks it has been sunny, but it's back to its gloomy self, which is good.
Seattle's kind of slowly getting back to its gloomy self. We had a lot of sun. I mean, there's still sun on the horizon,
Yeah.
but like yesterday was a nice, peaceful, rainy day. Today there's like gloomy, but no rain.
Yeah,
So pretty much the same as London.
pretty much.
Weather does not change. But yeah, wonderful. This week we're back. We're finishing up Boogie Nights, which is, if anybody missed the last episode, the film that Daniel suggested I watch.
Yeah, that's me. That's my
So,
fault.
yeah, you're the reason we're on this journey. I just want that to be very clear.
Yeah, I did message like
So-
3 times going like, we need to do Boogie Nights. And you're like, what is it about? It's like, it's about the porn industry. And you're like, we're not doing Boogie Nights. And then you Googled it and it's actually a respected film. So now we're doing Boogie Nights.
And now we're doing it. All I Googled was, is Boogie Nights a respected film? And then Copilot was like, yes. And all I read was yes because I didn't want anything else to be spoiled.
Mhm.
And so then I was like, okay. I guess.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Before we jump into it, I do have a question for you. As an actor,
Mm.
who would you want to play in this film? You cannot play Dirk.
I mean, now or like in my life? Like, do I need to, can I age?
I mean, how about both? Who would
Okay.
you want to play now?
If I were
and
to
then who would
age,
you
I would
want
love to
if
play
you were
like Burt Reynolds. I would love to be the filmmaker. I think
yeah.
that's a really good role. But now, I think maybe John C. Reilly, the best mate.
Todd?
The one that he's in the jacuzzi with, the one that he makes music with.
Oh, Reed.
Yeah, him.
Okay.
That'll be good. What about you? Which one?
Right now, I would probably say Scotty.
Who's Who's that one?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's a good one.
He's a fun character. Again, with the fact that, Dirk is out of the question because, I still kind of look like a 18-year-old kid, especially when I shave.
Yeah, and I think Dirk is like a very flattering role. Like, imagine someone asks you, like, who are you playing? It's like, I'm playing the guy that famously has a very big penis. Like everyone would be, oh, cool. Yeah, that's my casting. Right. Really.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would play Scotty, and then again, it like later in life, I would love to play Jack.
Yeah, I think Jack is the argue. Wait, did you know apparently Burt Reynolds hated this film? Like the guy that played.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he saw it and he thought that he was really bad in it. And he was nominated for like best supporting actor at the Oscars, and he was still like against the film. But oh well.
Hey, he just felt like he could have delivered a better performance.
Yeah, maybe, but I thought he was really good, and he played like this wise, creepy guy really well. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
He did really well.
Mhm.
So, where we are in the film is that Amber is dressed up. She is meeting with the judge. The judge's name is Kathleen O'Malley. This isn't important. I thought it might be. Turns out it's not. So, Amber slash Maggie, is Maggie like her legal name and Amber's just what she goes by?
Yeah, I think especially because when they call her in that party at the beginning, they call for Maggie,
Yeah.
and no one knows who Maggie is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think Maggie is her actual name.
Okay. Cool. That's what I guessed. But I wasn't completely sure because they call her Maggie again, and the last time that we heard that was at that party in the beginning
Mhm.
when like, Maurice did the thing of like, "Hey, there's a kid on the phone. I'm gonna go try to see if I can find someone named Maggie."
Mhm.
Like, credit to Maurice. He wasn't just like, "All right, kid, like, there's no one here." He was like, "All right, hold on. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
anyone, but I might be wrong. Let me go check."
Mhm.
So, like, credit to Maurice being like, "All right, hold on. There's a child on the phone. Let me see if I can find someone."
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but anyway, it is a Tuesday morning in September of 1983. And two other men come in. They join the room. One of them is a counselor, and the other one, I'm guessing, is Amber's old partner. Hey, surprise! Woohoo! It's the ex husband. They have been divorced since 1977, so it has been 6 years. And the money part of the settlement has been taken care of, and they are talking about the custody hearing. So originally, the plan at divorce was that Andrew would go with his father. Andrew's the kid, if anyone is curious. Andrew would go with his father and visit the mother, Maggie slash Amber, every Saturday at noon to Sunday at 7. And the mother was entitled to bring Andrew, to her house or any reasonable place. And I was like, okay, so that means that she took him to Jack's and lost visitation rights. Like, that's the only logical explanation of where the scene is going.
Mhm.
She's not gonna win this case. Like, I want her to, but she's not going to.
Mhm.
And so, this privilege was honored for a while, is what the ex husband says. Amber claps back, saying that, I only got to see him twice. And the ex husband says, well, like we said, reasonable place. A house of prostitution, drugs, and pornography was not that. And that's when it is revealed to the judge what Amber's line of work is, being in the adult film industry.
Yeah, I think it's
Now, oh,
no, I think it's really interesting how in the 1980s they start to face, like in the movie, you begin to feel they get kind of discriminated for being in the porn industry. Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, they get mistreated and judged very heavily by society, no longer as really exciting, edgy people, but as prostitutes or like scummy people.
Yeah, in the 70s, it kind of seemed like, oh, it's the cool
Hmm.
thing. But then in the 80s, it seems like it starts shifting, and it's like, oh, it's, they're the low lifes, they're the untalented,
Hmm.
they're the ones that do this because they can't do anything else, kind of
Hmm.
feeling. So, yeah. It's an interesting cultural shift. I don't know what caused that cultural shift from the 70s to the 80s.
Hmm.
I wasn't around.
Yeah, me neither.
So, I don't know.
But I do know, like many people, like even Paul Thomas Anderson and Tarantino, that speak about film history, they both for some reason agree that the 80s was really like politically correct and very like getting things like Taxi Driver made in the 80s was like impossible. Like everything that happened in the 70s was like not happening in the 80s, which really annoyed many people. Um, that everyone went very conservative in a way. Yeah.
Sure, I'm gonna act like I know what you mean by making Taxi Driver in the 80s because I've never seen the film and I don't even know when it
Okay.
came out.
Yeah. Okay. Taxi Driver is a violent film. It's an edgy
Oh, okay.
film, and the 80s were like non-edgy.
Fair. I mean, I guess in a way, I've heard complaints about that in like a modern sense as well.
Mm,
A little bit where people are like, all right, films that you could make in the 2010s,
hmm
you can no longer make now in 2020s
hmm
because everything has to be so politically correct. And the moment that you don't have something that's politically correct, it gets canceled
hmm
immediately.
hmm
Um, and so like, which is why like, I'm fascinated that things like Deadpool and Wolverine are still able to do so well. Um, because I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I want to. I've just been so busy that I haven't gotten a chance to go to the movies. Um, but like you kind of understand what I'm trying to say here. Of like it, I've heard a similar thing being said around the industry
Yeah.
a little bit,
Now.
where it's like, hey, like now people can't take a joke, like society can't take a joke, like you make one joke and then the actors getting canceled for something that
But
they said in a film but they didn't write it
yeah, and
or something like
it's
that.
even like not even with jokes. I saw this interview of Sean Penn like 2 weeks ago. He won an Oscar for playing Harvey Milk, and he said that he would never be cast as Harvey Milk now because he's a straight actor. Um, and he said that he found that a little bit strange, considering that in one decade he was celebrated for playing this role, and now he's used as an example of like things that you shouldn't do.
Right.
Hmm
um and it's an interesting conversation. I don't know where the right and where the
Yeah,
wrong falls in that.
cool. Yeah, let's
I'm
not
not
let's
saying
not
that I have
jump into
to,
that
but
conversation.
it's an
But
interesting
yeah, the same thing is happening to
conversation.
these people in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, it comes out what Amber does for the living, and, you know, her ex is just like, look, like, I didn't think that that was a good place for him to go. And Amber says that, Andrew was never exposed to drugs or pornography material and that her husband just assumed. And I was like, oh, he definitely saw it with his own eyes. But the ex husband says that Amber needs help and that she deals with sex and drugs for a living. Amber says that she doesn't do drugs immediately in my notes. Bullshit. And the ex says that Amber has been found in and out of trouble with the law on several occasions for drugs. Amber's like, no, this isn't true, not anymore. And the judge just asks a very simple question: when was the last time that you were arrested and what was the charge?
Hmm. Yeah, and then
And we cut to Amber crying outside the building.
yeah, she doesn't take it very well. Yeah.
No. And that's the end of this storyline. I'm guessing she just doesn't get visitation rights
Yeah,
anymore.
kind of.
Problem solved.
But to be honest, I know she really loves her kid. I know she loves her son. But I wouldn't be happy, like even now or at any period, with a child being raised amongst cocaine and public sex. Um,
I
yeah,
wouldn't either. So like I get why she doesn't have visitation
yeah,
rights. I mean, like, if she truly wants to be a part of his life, maybe it's something like, hey, you have to come see us. Dad still has to be around, but
Hmm.
you can come visit,
Yeah, but I don't think the dad would
right?
want her
Like,
around based on his attitude. Yeah.
yeah, no, but like that would be the only way that I could potentially see Amber
Mhm.
having a shot at being a part of Andrew's life.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. Personally, I get where the dad's coming from.
Hmm.
Like I wouldn't want any kid to be raised in that situation
Hmm.
where they're around public sex and drugs and everything like from that young of an age. It's like no, like you don't need that. You need a safe, nurturing environment, and that is not that. Like yes, they might fully love and accept the kids, but like it don't mess with them. So yeah. We then see a recording and we find out that it's like a live tape and it's Sunday, December 11th, 1983.
Hmm.
A fun fact, I looked it up. December 11th, 1983 was in fact a Sunday.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They did their research.
Hmm.
Should I have continued watching the film? Yes. Did I have useless facts to look up? Also,
Hmm.
yes.
Sorry.
So Jack is in the back of a beautiful limo and he's riding along Sherman Way.
Hmm.
And besides him is Roller Girl. And Jack asks if she's ready to get on with the experiment, and she is. They're on the lookout for a young stud who's out on the street who might join in and get it on with Roller Girl. They're gonna make some film history here on videotape. Okay. So, like, Jack's been reduced to finding random people on the street to sleep with Roller Girl in the back of a
I
limo?
find it interesting that your problem in this situation is Jack. Like, Roller Girl is literally having sex for free with a stranger. That is.
I have issues with that too.
Oh, Jack, he's filming.
His film career has really gone down the
Yeah.
drain.
Yeah, but the other one, like Roller Girl, she needs to go around sleeping with like, they could have anything. They could be like,
That's not what I said.
that's fine. Let's move on.
So it just seems like a weird situation all around for everybody
Yeah,
involved.
it is a weird situation.
Meanwhile, yeah. Meanwhile, Dirk is just waiting for someone, and this rinky dink truck pulls up, and he's like, all right, well, like, why don't you just wait in the car? And they drive off a little bit, and we learn that the driver's name is Joe, and Joe doesn't know who Dirk is. Probably a lie based on what happens soon, but at the time, Joe doesn't know who Dirk is. Joe says that he's a guy just helping him out, and meanwhile, we cut back to Jack. So we do a lot of cutting back and forth in these
Hmm.
two scenes. And we cut back to Jack, and he meets the guy, and he invites the guy into the limo, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like she's a really pretty girl," and he's like, "I see a girl," and it's like, "Well done, man! Like you're able to point out that Roller Girl is a female."
Hmm.
IQ at the highest levels. So Joe asks Dirk if he can watch him. He's not gay, but he wants to know if Dirk will just jerk off a little for him and he could watch. Maybe he'll join in later, but like for now he just wants to watch. Dirk says, "Fine, $20." Joe says, "You know what? I got 10." Dirk apparently is dirt poor at this point and is like, "Yeah, sure. I'll do it for 10." Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
I mean,
really
like,
depressing because I think the point that they
yeah.
make is that he became the biggest sex celebrity in the world ish.
Mhm.
And now this guy doesn't know who he is. Meaning not even as an actor. And his rate is back to being what it was
What it was
when he
before.
was a dishwasher.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he's fallen completely from being who he got to be. Yeah.
I mean, he has fallen off the mountain and like drowned in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like it is everything and in between. Like, things have gone very poorly for him. And it is really sad that he's back in that situation where it's just back to this. But also, like, I was thinking about it in 2024 money. $10 in the 80s, still like a decent chunk of change. $10 now doesn't even buy you a meal at a fast food restaurant.
I mean, I think that $10 at any moment is really cheap to see someone do anything sexual.
I'm not saying that the task shouldn't be more than $10, Daniel. I'm just saying how much $10 is.
It really feels like you look at Dirk and you go like, I mean, take it. You're gonna like the economy is gonna go worse, so you might as well take it now. Uh, all right.
No. Oh, this episode is not going well for me. Okay. This is why you're only allowed on this show once a year.
Yeah,
Because things like this happen.
yeah. Um,
So, where are we at? Ah, yes. Meanwhile, the guy in the limo is now with Roller Girl, and he's like, "Oh, we went to school together," and it's just like, okay, he does go to school. He doesn't say where he goes to school, and then he divulges the school name like half a second later. It made no sense, but
no,
he's
I
like,
think
"Oh yeah, I've seen."
he's the guy that the creepy guy. The reason that she walked out of school. Remember at the beginning? Yeah, I
Oh,
think he's the same guy
is
that
it the
kind of
same guy?
did this sexual kind of symbol. And she got offended and she ended up leaving. And now she has to have sex with the same guy that created that trauma. And she feels like shit, basically.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Roller Girl says that she didn't know him, and he's like, "No, we went to school together. Your real name is Brandy." I feel like Roller Girl does
Hmm.
know, but she's just suppressing it.
Yeah.
She knows who this guy is at
Yeah.
this point.
Hmm.
And what's wild is that she knows who this guy is, but then goes on with it.
Yeah, because she's roller girl. She's not Brandy. She needs to be the
Yeah,
professional.
that is true. Meanwhile, Dirk is jerking off, and Joe's telling him to go harder and faster. The guy and Roller Girl start getting it on in the back of the limo. Jack keeps telling the guy to make it sexy. It isn't a hole in the wall, it's Roller Girl. I just laughed at that line. I was like, this is such a weird line to be stating, but like, okay.
Hmm.
It was like one of those uncomfortable, like, it's a joke, but not a joke.
Hmm.
Like, it's disgusting. One of those. Joe keeps instructing Dirk to go faster, and the guy in the limo still not sexy enough for Jack. And Roller Girl just pushes him off and tells Jack that this is stupid. They pulled the car over, and the guy says that hey, like he looks at Roller Girl and is just like, you gave me a hard on. Like the least you could do is jack me off. And the guy says that it isn't cool to leave him with a hard on, and then gets out of the car. And as he's getting out of the car, tells Jack that his films suck. So Jack tackles him out of the limo. Go, Jack, go.
Hmm.
Physical violence is never the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Do not punch people. Do not tackle people. Do not kick people. Go, Jack, go. So, meanwhile, Dirk has fallen off so far that he can't even get a hard on anymore.
Hmm.
And he says that he's sorry. And just then another truck pulls up, and Joe says that you shouldn't do this sort of thing and punches Dirk in the face. Jack is then, wailing on this guy, and his friends finally pull him off. Meanwhile, this group of people, including Joe, just start beating up Dirk. We start cutting back and forth between the guy getting beat up by Jack and friends to Dirk getting beat up by Jack and friends. It's a very cool, like, similarity,
Hmm.
and showing like, hey, Dirk used to be at this level and he's now at this same level as this guy, just that they found off the street.
Yeah. And yeah, and I think that they're telling you the story of yeah, of the porn industry at that moment because it's everyone's life, like with Amber and Jack and Roller Girl and Dirk and everyone. The name of Don Cheadle's character, forget his name. Yeah, you get everyone failing and being mistreated for doing this kind of work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, they're no longer cultural heroes. They are just scummy people.
Scummy people. So yeah, I mean, Roller Girl gets out of the limo, starts yelling at the guy who is already bloody, and says, "Don't ever disrespect me, fucker," and starts kicking him with her skates.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Um, and Jack and friends get Roller Girl back into the limo. They close the doors, and meanwhile, Dirk is just writhing in pain as Joe and his friends leave him. And it looks like the limo just drives right past them, almost. Like it drives past where Dirk is laying on the ground.
Hmm.
And then we see another car, and then it's Buck and his girl. I don't remember his girlfriend's name or wife's name. They might have gotten married at some point.
Hmm.
So, um,
Buck is Don Cheadle, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Buck is Don Cheadle.
I mean Don
But
Cheadle
like,
is
yeah,
Buck. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Um
yes. No, Buck is Don Cheadle. No, yes. Um, Don Cheadle is actually just a character in everybody's life.
yeah.
Surprise!
Hmm.
His real name is Buck. Um, but they pull up to like this store, and his wife's hungry and pregnant. So Buck jumps out and is like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go get some donuts." And I was like, "Does something bad happen to the wife? Am I gonna be pissed? Am I gonna just be pissed and someone's gonna kill his pregnant wife? What in the world? Why does this need to happen?" And then I was like, "Oh no, I was just wrong." Someone walks in and starts robbing the donut shop. Also, of all places to rob, a donut shop?
I mean it's the 80s where you could get it for like you said it. 10 quid. I mean $10 is a decent amount of money, so if you rob a donut shop, you may actually get some decent money.
That is fair based on the money that we do see it come up with. It's a fair amount of money.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean if you
someone.
if you rob one now, you're not gonna get much. But if you rob one then, you might actually get something.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like crime was just significantly easier back in the day before, like DNA testing and
Yeah, before
you
like
know
cameras,
everything.
like yeah, satellites. Life was easier.
Yeah. I mean, you wanted to commit a crime, all you had to do was not be there
Yeah,
when the cops showed up.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
I was born in the 90s, but the 80s
Now
sound good. I'm joking, I'm joking. Yeah, keep going. Mm.
the '80s sound interesting.
Yeah, they sound different.
Yeah. So you know they are doing that. There's a guy that's just casually sitting in the donut shop, and he reaches into a vest. And my first thought was, Buck better not die in the crossfire.
Mm.
Don't do this to me. Buck doesn't deserve death. Buck is pure. Buck just wants to open a stereo
Hmm.
shop. And the guy in the booth shoots the robber, who then shoots the guy in the booth, and somehow a third shot gets fired. It hits the cashier in the back of the head, killing him and spraying blood on the Buck.
Hmm.
How did the physics work for that last shot?
I mean, I did think about this when I was seeing it, and I just went, weird things do happen. So I'm gonna go with it. Yeah, I was like, it seems a bit coincidental, but somehow I believe this. So I just kept going.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, just keep
So
going. Believe it and keep going.
Buck's mortified. Makes complete sense that Buck is mortified.
Hmm.
And then he sees the money in the bag, and he grabs the money and heads out the door. I mean, I guess he got his loan.
Yep. And I do think I mean, Don Cheadle is amazing in this movie. So he plays the scene really well, where you can tell that he's terrified, but the only thing he's thinking about is being able to make something out of his own situation.
And I also think like in this moment, he doesn't say anything, but like what I read in Don Cheadle in that moment was like he's thinking about his own situation, but he's also like because he has like a quick glance, kind of like up
Mm-hmm.
to where it could, and like
Be
you're only
his
seeing his face,
wife, yeah.
but like he's looking at his wife in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife who is pregnant with his child,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes and grabs the money.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost made me feel like, he's not doing this for himself at this point. It's I need to create a better life for this kid.
Mm-hmm. And I
So I'm
feel
going to take the money.
that the situation kind of mirrors the way he feels in society. You know what I mean? There's loads of hostility and loads of people making him feel really unwelcome. And now that he's
Mhm.
literally covered in blood and in this weird thing, he he just goes with it. And I think that's what happens with it, with the scene. You know, like we believe it because it was just some weird thing that happened. Yeah, and he ended up
Yeah,
getting all this money. Yeah.
for sure. Well, we're going to take a quick intermission and then we will be right back to just kind of do the whole last bit of this film because all of it kind of takes place in one big scene. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying this episode of Post Finale. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you enjoy the episode and you are having a good time, please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube and hit that like button. And please be sure to follow the show if you're listening on any other app like Spotify, Apple Music, etc. It doesn't matter where you're listening for us. It just means so much that you are listening to this episode. And thank you all so much. It really does help out the show and the channel. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Now, if you are enjoying the content and you want to gain access to more content, you can do so by signing up for our Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, we have an update for our patrons. And the update is that Lucy Sadler, thank you so much for upgrading to production manager. It really means a lot to us. Thank you so much. And for anyone else that wants to sign up, gain access to bonus content, you can see tier lists, you can see notes that we have, some bonus videos, some bonus audios, different things like that. You can suggest films that we do. All sorts of things like that can be found on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And thank you so much to anyone who is even considering this. It really does help us out a lot, and thank you. Now, be sure to also follow us on social media for Post Finale. You can find us at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow Co-op Forge, where we post a lot of content as well, not just about Post Finale, but for all the shows that we host here on Co-op Forge. So that includes Seattle Across the Pond, and that includes Flip the Scripts. So if you want to follow that one on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, it is at Co-op Forge. So at CO_OPFORGE. And it really does help. The best way to help the show in a non-monetary way, if you want to do that too, is just to talk about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to help grow the show. Just reach out to a friend and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, I know that you need a reason to watch more films. Check out this show where the host is an actor who hasn't seen anything and he's confused most of the time on what's going on. It's silly. It's a fun time. He's really humble. It's a fun, great way to help the show grow. And talk about us on social media. It really, really does help. Thank you all so much to anyone who has done this in the past, anyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean the world to us. But that's enough of me rambling on. Once again, if If you want to follow us on social media, it's at Post Finale Pod and at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE. And if you want to sign up for the Patreon, again, there is zero pressure to do so. Listening to the show means so much to us. But if you want to do that, it can be found at patreon.com/co-op forge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And let's get back to the show. So we now see a title card that says "Long Way Down, One Last Thing," and the boys are hanging out and they're learning that there's this guy named Rashad Jackson that can help them score some extra cash,
Yeah,
more money than God, and twice as much coke, crack, and smack.
I love
Uh,
Rashad.
I you know
Actually,
what makes this?
I'll change my question at the beginning. I may actually want to play Rashad.
I
He
could see you as playing
may
Rashad.
he's such a good character. Is Alfred
He's
Molina
so
like
fun.
killing it? Unreal. Yeah,
That's Alfred Molina.
that is Alfred Molina. Yeah,
I never realized that's Alfred Molina.
yeah, that's the point. He's brilliant.
He looks super young in that film.
Yeah, this was even before like Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is like 5 years before
Hmm.
Spider-Man,
Yeah, he looks different. Yeah.
or like 8 years before Spider-Man, because I think Spider-Man 2 is 2004.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but this is literally when he was kind of breaking into Hollywood. I mean, he was already famous here, like in England, but he became
Mm-hmm.
famous in Hollywood like late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they're all hanging out. They learn about Rashad, and Rashad will buy anything that people want to sell them. And Todd says that, he'll call him on the phone, tell him that he has 0.5 kilos of the wildest stuff to sell, give him a price of 5K, enough to get the vet fixed. And they put baking soda in a bag, and it's a nifty hustle and bustle. And Dirk is like a little hesitant about this, asks if, what if he tests it out? And Todd's like, nah, he won't. Like, don't worry about it. Scotty's just like there and is just like, hey guys, you should be careful. And Dirk gets really upset at Scotty for saying this and tells him to mind his own business. And I was like, Scotty don't need this. Scotty's just looking out for your well being. Dirk, shut the hell up.
Mm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
poor Scotty, getting bullied. Now,
Cool.
they head over to the house. Todd pulls out a gun just in case. This makes Reed and Dirk suspicious and uncomfortable. They're like,
Hmm.
what? I didn't have a gun. Do you have a gun? Do we need a gun? I don't know what's going on. And I was like, okay, so here's what I think is going to potentially happen is that Todd is definitely getting killed over whatever situation is about to happen. I feel like Reed is potentially going to get caught in the crossfire, and Dirk is going to find a way out of this. And then Dirk is going to go back to Jack for help because he has nobody to turn to because his other two friends are dead.
Okay.
So that's where I'm thinking this is headed, right? But I'm pretty confident Todd's going to die.
Cool.
And I'm not upset about it. Never really cared about Todd.
I
I would
mean,
be
he did
sad if
show up
Reed dies.
late. He doesn't have his own story. He might as well die. Yeah.
He might as well die. I would be sad if Reed dies, but I can
Yeah.
see Reed dying.
Yeah, but
But I think if
yeah, I do see that situation happening. So fair enough. Yeah, there's many things that could happen in Rashad's house. Rashad Jackson, such a good name.
exactly
Um,
Rashad Jackson,
yeah, such a good name. Cool.
but they head inside and we hear like a shot, and I was like, "What's this guy doing in the background?" We learn later that it's firecrackers. Oh boy, those firecrackers sound like gunshots,
Hmm.
which is just a fantastic background sound for this entire scene.
Yeah, it builds up the tension because nothing is happening, but you feel like something really bad is gonna happen. Yeah.
100% that they just like probably looked around and they were like, all right, we need one of our set prop people. Who do we trust? Hey, Jeremy, why don't you come do this? Because we need somebody here and, like, just be in the film. You have zero lines. All you got to do is throw things on the ground.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
So they all head inside, and Rashad gets invested in the music, and he's like, oh, it's a good build up. It's fantastic. Rashad is great. He asks for the price, and Todd just starts to laugh, and then he's just like, all right, how about 5K? Rashad's like, all right, sounds good. And Rashad's bodyguard gives it to them. Dirk and Reed both notice that Rashad's bodyguard has a gun in his jacket pocket, or, like, in his holster. He has like a holster, and has a gun, and he pours it out. And Reed and Dirk want to leave, but Todd is counting the money. Meanwhile, the bodyguard seems to be like checking something about the fake coke that they just gave them, which is more, baking soda.
mhm.
So they could make some brownies.
Yeah.
They just ain't getting high. But they could have food for after getting high.
Mhm,
They brought one of the essential ingredients. So Rashad asks them if they want to see something fascinating. Turns out it's a silver gun. And Rashad loads it and then starts joking around, telling them to dare him to shoot himself. They obviously do not. But Reed and Dirk especially get freaked out by this. They just seem a little more on edge than Todd. So fair enough. We learn that the guy doing those bangs, his name is Cosmo. He likes firecrackers.
mhm,
You do you, Cosmo. You
mhm.
do you. And then Jesse's girl starts playing, and Rashad is having a fantastic time singing along.
Yeah. I don't know if you were sneezing or coughing or both, but that was interesting.
Yes.
Cool. Keep going. Brush that.
So Dirk notices something, and instead of leaving, like Reed says, he gets this like staring look, almost like he's mesmerized by something. We never see what that is and what he's looking at. So what do you think he might be looking at here? Because, like, we were stuck on his face for a very long time.
On whose face?
Dirk's
Yeah,
face?
I think he's just really shocked with everything. And I
Okay.
think he's contemplating. I think that's the moment in which, I mean, sometimes it happens to me. You know, when you're so deep into some shit that it takes you a minute to actually realize how deep into some shit you actually are. Um,
He's just processing, like, how in the world did I end
yeah,
up
he
here?
was like thinking, like, I was just washing dishes yesterday, and now I'm here, and there's this crazy guy loading a gun in front of me. What the
Yeah.
fuck? Yeah, so yeah,
So,
I think he's catching up with himself. Um,
okay.
yeah, that's how I read it. Yeah,
It's like when you're on a night out with your friends, and then at like 2 o'clock in the morning, you're like, how have I ended up here?
yeah,
Yesterday, I was like taking a nap and playing Pokemon. And today, I'm like in the middle of Trafalgar Square doing random cartwheels. Like, what?
yeah. To me, this literally happened to me yesterday. I went for this happened last night. I went for a 20-minute nap before I went to the gym. I said I'm gonna wake up in 20 minutes, go to the gym, and then I woke up 16 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the feeling Dirk is getting. He's just waking up from something and going, I'm supposed to be having a nap. And here I am, and Alfred Molina's going to shoot me. Yeah,
Fair, fair. So Reed and Dirk are like, all right, we need to leave. Like, they come up with excuses. They're like, look, we have dinner with friends. Like, we're really sorry. Like, this has been planned for a while. The polite way to try to get out of a situation
yeah.
of like, hey man, like, you seem cool, but like
You
we
seem
just I
fluid
we
then.
gotta we
Mm,
you seem
yeah.
cool. We just gotta head out, like,
Hmm.
and nothing on you. Like, you were perfectly fine.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Todd, being dumb, is just sitting there and starts laughing and says that, they want something else from him. And Dirk is confused, as well as Rashad. And Todd just says, in the master bedroom, under the bed, in the floor safe. Understand? And Rashad just has a fantastic line. Are you kidding me, kitty?
Hmm.
I was like, yes. Now, Dirk and Reed are both telling Todd, like, yo, hey, we should go. We should leave. We should get out. Like, you see that door? That should be our exit. We have the 5K. Just leave. Todd tells Dirk to shut up and that he has a plan, a very good plan. And Todd says that he isn't kidding. Wants what's in the goddamn safe in the goddamn master bedroom. And I was like, what could be in the safe? Is it incriminating evidence? Is it drugs? Is it money? Spoiler alert, it's drugs and money. Todd's just like, yeah. Todd's gone down a dark, dark path.
Yeah,
Now,
Todd is really
yeah.
stupid. I actually
Yeah,
don't
he's
like
not
Todd.
smart. I don't either. Which is why what happens to him very soon, I'm very okay with.
Yeah, I
So
think that's
Todd
the
pulls out a
point.
gun.
I think they just wrote a character that just makes you go like, yuck, and then he gets shot, and you go, yeah, take that. I think that's
Yeah.
hardly a spoiler. He's so gonna get shot. Um,
No, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's not a spoiler.
yeah.
Like it's not a spoiler at this point. Like, even if you haven't seen the film, based on just my explanation of the film, I hope you've been able to put together Todd's gonna die. So Todd pulls out a gun. He points it at the bodyguard and tells him not to reach for his gun. But, he forgot the fact that Rashad also has a gun. So Rashad grabs his gun, shoots Todd in the right shoulder, and then the bodyguard takes the opportunity and starts firing. And Reed and Dirk both managed to hide behind the bar. So, good for them. Don't really care about Todd. Todd, meanwhile, has been shot. He kills the bodyguard. And Todd says that Rashad ran into the bedroom and says that there is money and coke in that safe. They came here to do that, and they would be dumb to leave without it. Dirk and Reed are like, no, we came here to give him the baking soda and leave with 5K. This is not the thing. We should leave. We should get out of here. We should run away while we still have the chance to run away. Todd, don't be dumb. Todd is dumb. So he's like, nah, I'm getting what I came for. And he kicks down the door and gets immediately killed by a shotgun blast.
Hmm. Yeah, he looks like Scarface, Rashad, at that moment. He's literally just shooting to anything. Yeah, I love Rashad. I actually do want to play Rashad. So I'll change Reed for Rashad, and I still want to be Jack at the end.
Fair.
Yeah,
I still think playing Scotty would be really fun. Rashad is a close second, but
yeah, Scotty's a good one.
still feel like Scotty would be fun. Scotty doesn't say a whole lot, but he's around and he's a vibe. And he's a fun vibe.
Yeah, he's good. And he's Philip Seymour Hoffman. I just think that makes him a lot more a way more likable character. Because
Yeah.
you go like, yeah, you go Phil. Show, yeah,
He's like, hey, Philip, what? We need you in a scene. All right, what do you need me to do? Stand there. I got
yeah, he does
you.
it great. Yeah.
He's like, I can stand. What else do you need me to do? Listen, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was a lot of the direction that Philip Seymour Hoffman got in this film, and oh boy, did he do it impeccably well.
No, what I think is amazing is I think this is either the first or the second Philip Seymour Hoffman, Paul Thomas Anderson film. I think it's the first one. And then he used them in pretty much every film until he passed away. Like every single Paul Thomas Anderson film has a scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman, except There Will Be Blood. And he made a movie called Licorice Pizza that I've not seen, but I should. That the lead is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. He's the lead of that film. Yeah.
Ooh. See, that's the nepotism I'm okay with as long as he's a good actor.
Why? Because yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, apparently he's good. Apparently he's really good in that film. But
That's because I like Philip Seymour Hoffman,
hmm?
right? I mean, nepotism also does annoy me a lot because, the Bollywood nepotism 101. Um,
Hmm.
but so that's a fun time. Anyway, yeah, so he's dead. I for anyone that is curious, while Daniel was explaining Scarface, I sat here and nodded my head like I knew what he was talking about. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, Rashad then is like, I'ma shoot some people, and Reed and Dirk do the smart thing and run. Now, Rashad chases them out. He starts shooting them at the car, and the others try to make the escape. Dirk manages to get in the car and he gets it started and he drives away, but at some point, Reed, like to avoid a shotgun shell, runs off to the right. So, like,
Yeah.
Reed's just on his own adventure. We don't know what happens to Reed, and I'm like, does Reed die? Spoiler alert: Reed's not dead. Reed just runs away from the car.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way of separating, like metaphorically separating them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think like it felt natural,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because like it never felt like it was forced that Reed was going to separate or anything, and you need Dirk separated for this next scene that's about to
Yeah,
happen.
because you need to
And I,
completely isolate Dirk for him to actually
Mhm.
feel completely fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for him to then do the next thing,
Hmm.
uh, which we'll get to in like 2 minutes. But like, yeah, they did a really good job where like it was just they were being shot at. They were both trying to get into the car. One of the shots gets really close to Reed, and like I think even like potentially hits the mirror that his hand is on. And so that's what causes Reed to like bolt and run
Hmm.
away because he's like, oh crap, like the shot was right next to me. And so in that moment, Reed's just like, all right, like I can cut through someone's yard and like run away and like jump through some fences and call it good.
And I think
Like,
he that makes him like immediately associate Dirk with something he doesn't want to be around. You know what I mean? Because he literally nearly got him killed. So
mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense for him to just go on in his own journey, just away
Yeah,
from danger. Yeah.
he does. He
Hmm.
gets away from danger and then he notices that he's almost out of fuel. And then it's the next morning and we see Dirk has pushed his car a fair distance. He does look pretty tired. And we find out that we are back at Jack's house and Dirk has come back. And Dirk asks Jack for help. Dirk apologizes and just wants to know if Jack will help him. He needs help. And they did a really good job. He looks like the same poor, scared kid at the beginning of the movie when he ran away from home.
Hmm. I think they film him the same as well. They give him like the same frame.
Oh, it's possible that they gave him the same frame. I
Yeah.
know the costume looks very
Yeah.
similar. The costume is very, very similar. The framing might be the same. It has been a while since I saw the first scene
Yeah.
of this
Yeah.
movie. Of this movie, so don't fully recollect the first scene of the framing. But yeah, um, but it's very, very beautifully done. And Jack, I thought would get mad, but he isn't. He just embraces Dirk and tells him, like, "Look, I'm sorry as well. You know what? Fair enough. Like, just owning up. Like,
Mhm.
hey, like, we've both made mistakes." And I think Jack does a really good thing here of like someone I care about, someone that I love about, whatever our arguments might be. I can tell that in this situation they need love and support and that they need help, and so I'm going to help them. I'm not going to throw them out anymore. And I think Jack does a really good job about that.
Mhm.
And I think it's a beautiful message of like, hey, like you have arguments with people. You have disagreements, you have falling outs, but
And I
when
think,
when you see someone that's at rock bottom and you do actually still have caring for them.
yeah, but I think both of them need each other. It's not
Yeah.
only Jack that is being really generous. Like Jack is also making really, really bad films. So he's also fallen, and I think they are in very different places to when they actually had their big fallout. So yeah, they've grown and changed in ways that make him really good for each other again, I think.
Hmm.
Or unhealthy
No.
for each other, but they kind of need each other to be healthier than they would be without.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Like they definitely need each other. Um, for that.
Mhm.
But so Amber is consoling Dirk, and then we start learning about how the lives of everybody has changed, and they're going back, and how things are moving on. Buck has opened his new stereo world,
Mhm.
and it's Buck's super cool stereo world, so like good for him. And Roller Girl is back in school or trying to get that GED
Mhm.
that she mentioned earlier.
Yep.
I think she's just like in the exam room taking her GED. The Colonel getting beaten up in prison, deserves it.
Mhm.
Maurice opens up the Rodriguez Brothers nightclub.
Nah, he opens up the Rodriguez with a Q.
That's what I said,
Yeah,
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Yeah.
Rodriguez. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then Maurice has the line, oi, what happened there? That's not a Q, it's supposed to be a G.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be Rodriguez.
Yeah. So they make it a
But it's
Rodriguez. Yeah.
but I just love that, like, they still throw in that little bit of comedy of like, ah, crap.
Yeah, and I think it's a really nice detail because it doesn't feel. Oh no, like it kind of breaks the rhythm of everything looking like this perfect movie ending. You know what I mean? It feels like, of course, he got this shit cute. You know what I mean?
It of course feels like a mistake that would legitimately have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reed has become a magician and is
Hmm.
performing a trick where a girl emerges from a box. Cool. Meanwhile, Buck has become a father, and Scotty is filming the birth.
Yeah, he's
Jack
really into it as well. It's really creepy. Yeah,
He's really into filming that birth.
yeah.
Uh, Jack is back to filming, and Maurice's Puerto Rican cooking is making the place smell. And Maurice is just like, it is the smell of flavor. Taste it, taste it. And Jack's just like, I don't have time to taste it. I'll taste it later. Jack tells Roller Girl to take the dirt from one side of her room and move it to the other side of the room. And that way it looks like one side of the room is clean.
Hmm.
I laughed. I was like, fair. Um, Johnny's in the pool, and he is going to be a 5-time gold medalist. And Johnny is the name of Buck's kid. Reed is playing with little Johnny. Buck is installing a new stereo in Jack's house. There's a painting of Bill on the wall. Bill,
Hmm.
whose wife would just sleep with everyone but him. Jack checks with Amber and just stares at Amber, tells her that she is the foxiest bitch in the world.
Hmm.
And then we cut to Dirk in a dressing room.
Hmm.
And he's telling himself that he's been around the block twice, looking for a clue. Something led him back here. Could have been him at any point. All the bad things. And then he says something, and it takes me a little while to like understand what's going on, right? But then he goes, we've all got those guilty feelings in our heart. You want to take your brain out of your head and wash it and scrub it and make it clean. Well, no. And then like the next lines is when I'm like, oh, he's going over his lines for his scene, isn't he?
I actually never realized at the beginning of that bit actually makes sense. Like, to me, the whole thing was him clearly rehearsing the line. But at the beginning, this actually makes sense. Yeah.
Like the beginning up until something along the lines of I'm gonna make you wet,
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like he's running lines. But up until that moment, like everything that I just read, I felt like it could have been something that Dirk was just telling himself as Dirk.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think everything just came together really
Yeah,
nicely. Yeah.
it came together. It's beautiful. Um, and it's the return of Brock Landers.
Hmm.
He stands up, he unzips his pants, not relieves, reveals his very different word.
Yeah, he reveals his.
He reveals his very large penis.
Mhm.
And my exact note is fun prosthetic.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this film when I was a kid, I watched the DVD, and I remember that scene clearly having the penis blurred out. Like,
Okay.
yeah, and I thought that that's the way they filmed it. Like, I didn't remember actually seeing it. I remember it being blurry. And then when I was watching it, I was so not expecting it because I thought the movie had a blurred out penis. And by the end, I was just like really like, okay, cool.
Well, because you also saw this at about like 10 a.m. in the morning, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I saw it in the morning. It was, yeah, I mean, it's what's really interesting is I think that's when he actually, unfortunately, I don't think it's a happy ending. I think they all have each other and they have a community, which is nice. But at the same time, I feel that's when he actually becomes a professional porn star. He stops being,
An actor.
he stops being the up and coming whatever, and he actually just does his job, and he just has, yeah, he's just this guy with the big penis, and he just, yeah, he's done. He's already kind of decided what he's going to be doing for the rest of his life, basically. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he heads out to shoot the film, and that's the end of Boogie Nights.
yeah. Woohoo!
Very interesting film. Before we get into any of the statistics, what would you rate the film, Daniel? Where on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate this film?
Mm, what's funny, I think I liked it more growing up than I do now. I think now I like it at a 9 or an 8. I think when I was a teenager, I liked it at a 10. But I think it's the same thing that you get with the characters in the film. You know, at the beginning when you're young, it feels really exciting and edgy and oh, and you're the cool kid on the block and all this. Um, but now that I'm in my late 20s, it feels a bit, yeah, you do see the dark sides of it a little bit more, and it feels kind of, not that I like it less, but watching it feels different. It feels like a tougher watch than when I was a kid. Um, so yeah, an 8.5 maybe.
8.5. Yeah, I would probably give it like an 8, 8.5. I feel like the storyline is like a very strong storyline.
I really like every
I
single important name character is really well fleshed out. Even if they're in it for a little bit, like Scotty, you feel like Scotty's a really fleshed out human being.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bill, who kills himself
Hmm.
halfway through. Like it feels like every single character is very well written and very well acted.
Yeah, I like it's good performances all the way around.
Hmm.
I see why this film helped launch Mark Wahlberg's career.
Hmm.
Um, like it makes sense. I see why it helped launch Heather Graham's career.
Yeah, everyone really, everyone in it became quite big doing something else.
Yeah,
Even
yeah, yeah.
what's the name of Maurice? Is that Luis Guzman?
Yes, I think so. What
Yeah.
is he famous for though?
No, but he's done other things. I've seen him in different things. He was in a Jim Carrey
Oh,
movie, and he's was in the
I've
Count of
seen him. I've seen him in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. He's very rarely like the lead, but he's been in loads of stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I have ever seen him play the lead in a film. And I'm sure he has.
Yeah, but anyways,
I
William H. Macy and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Don Cheadle, Heather Graham, John C. Reilly, like
Yeah.
I'm sure at that Julianne Moore, like I'm sure at that moment, none of them were as famous or as big as they were in 1998. You know what I mean?
I think the only one that was Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, but I don't think by that moment he was doing particularly well. I think he was really big when he had his television show and stuff.
This might have been like his comeback into films.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So just some fun facts to wrap up this episode and wrap up Boogie Nights. The budget $15 million. This is all in US dollars, by the way. Budget 15 million US dollars. Box office 43.1 million US dollars. So they made their money back
Mhm,
and then some.
mhm,
And the Rotten Tomatoes critic score 94%. Rotten Tomatoes audience score 89%.
mhm,
IMDb 7.9 out of 10. It was nominated for 3 Oscars, which was Burt Reynolds as actor in supporting role, Julianne Moore in actress in supporting role, and Paul Thomas Anderson for best writing screenplay directly for the screen.
mhm.
It None of them won, but they were all nominated.
Yeah.
And
Paul
Burt
Thomas
Reynolds,
Anderson was like 27 when he made this film.
yeah, I know.
Mad.
Yeah.
Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Burt Reynolds and Paul Thomas Anderson also did get nominated for the BAFTAs in their respective categories that I just mentioned. Didn't win there, but also got nominated for the BAFTA awards. It did win 36 awards across 64 nominations and all the different awards things that happen out there. I always just look at the Oscars and the BAFTAs as they tend to be the two biggest ones. And if anyone is curious, take a look at the IMDb page for the film, which is going to be linked in the description. But yeah, it's a fun film. It's an interesting film. Thank you for forcing me to go on this journey, Daniel. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no worries. So that's 2 films we've done. If you're still doing
We
this
have
in 2025, we might see. I'll try and recommend something friendlier, something less.
you wanna recommend a comedy because like we've had a lot of killing in the 2 movies that you and I did
Yeah,
together.
yeah, we've done really serious stuff. We've done Silence of the Lambs, and we've done this one. I think the next one should be something. You know what's something really funny? So Paul Thomas Anderson did a movie after this one called Magnolia, and it was like with Tom Cruise, and it was a big 3 hour epic film. And they asked him, "What movies do you want to make after this one?" And he jokingly said, "I want to do a romantic comedy with Adam Sandler, and then I want to do some really serious film with Daniel Day-Lewis." And everyone thought it was really funny. And then the next film he made was a romantic comedy with Adam Sandler called Punch Drunk Love. And then the other one was There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis. So he was not joking, but people thought he was. Um, but yeah, so I think the next one that we do should be not necessarily a comedy, maybe a comedy, but something like a feel-good movie. We should do a feel-good movie.
Sounds good. Now, before we inevitably do that in 2025, where can people find you on the internet? I know you have some stuff coming up that
Yeah,
is very exciting. How can they find you and all the things that you're doing?
they could find me on Instagram with danielc.acting. That's my own personal handle. At the moment, I'm producing a play called Kindliness that I wrote, and is going to be on at the Barons Court Theatre in November, the third week of November. At the moment, we're still gathering funds. I'm doing a crowdfund GoFundMe, that you could find on any of my bios, and you could follow Kindliness Play on Instagram for more details. Yeah, it's a really exciting play
Wonderful.
about unity and yeah, all of us living together lovingly in this world that feels a little bit tense at the moment. Yeah.
And we will try to link as many of those things down below.
Woohoo!
And if the GoFundMe is still going on as this episode goes live, we'll link that down below as well so that you all can take a look at it
Thank
if you
you.
feel so inclined. But Daniel, thank you so much for joining. As always, it is a pleasure. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next week, I'll catch y'all later.
What are you doing next?
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created, hosted, and produced by me, Ankit Madhira. Our editor is Parnov Nair. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutcherson, and the art is by Jarid Rother. If you are all enjoying this episode and want to gain access to more bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge and signing up for any of the tiers. You get loads of different bonus content, such as notes and commentary that we have as we're watching the films, as well as some bonus audio, some bonus videos, and ad-free episodes, early access if we get them done early, and different things like that. All of that can be found at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's patreon.com/co_opforge. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Tell a friend about the show. Just reach out and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, you need an excuse to watch some more films. Check out the show called Post Finale. The host is an actor, and he's funny and silly, confused most of the time, but they have interesting discussions about some popular films that I think you would really enjoy. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure to talk about us on social media at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow us at Co-op Forge, that's CO_OPFORGE, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And there we post content not just from Post Finale, but also from the other shows hosted here on Co-op Forge, which are Flip the Scripts and Seattle Across the Pond. So a lot of fun things can be found over there on our social media. It really, really does help us out a lot. Thank you to everyone who has already done this. Thank you to everyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean a lot to us, and it helps us create better content for you, the listeners, as we grow. It really does help, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale, and I can't wait until next week. And until then, I'll catch y'all later.